right, hello there, thrill seekers. I am back in Upland, California, and very jet lagged. And I moved my spot because everything got moved around while I was away, and I'm gonna have to figure out where to go. Also, the sun is shining in a different spot, so my shade has moved. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get back into the foliage, so I've moved on to the sort of porch-like area for now. And the shirt I'm wearing is from Drei Schatze. I'll show you on the screen. Three Treasures. That's my friend Patrick's place in Bonn, Germany, one of the many places I spoke when I was in Germany this past month. And the song you heard was from a great German band called, what were they called? Neu, from, are they from Dusseldorf? I'm not sure. They were an offshoot of Kraftwerk, and one of the great German bands, and accompanied by Ziggy, who you can see in the background, who we were reunited and it's understood. So I'm back in California, back from a month of touring Europe, and thank you all you Europeans who came to see me, and it was a great time, was had by all. Also, that thing I said about doing a living room tour, maybe everybody was intimidated by what I said about payment. I don't mean that everybody who invites me to do a living room tour thingy has to pay my entire way across the country. What I mean is we have to work out the logistics so that each person who, each entity or place that invites me pays a portion of the expenses that it takes to get me to the place. So if you think you can do that, it usually entails figuring out how to get between 15 and 30 people to show up to the gig and get them to pay about $10 each, and hopefully some of those people will also buy a book or a t-shirt or something. So it's not like you're incurring a huge expense, but people do have to pony up a little bit of money to make it happen. So it's not all free. Okay, so let me tell you what I want to tell you, which is I want to talk about well-being ceremonies. Okay, there's this tradition that sometimes happens in Zen. Nishijima Roshi didn't do it. Tim McCarthy, my first teacher, didn't do it. I'm not sure where I picked it up. I might have picked it up from some Zen center I visited along the way. But it's where you chant the Heart Sutra, and then after you chant the Heart Sutra, you dedicate the merit of the sutra to people who are sick or in trouble, people who you want to give a little bit of well wishes to. And Ziggy wants to give a little bit of well wishes to somebody. And it's just a little thing. Some people regard it as little more than a sort of get well soon card writ large. Some people regard it as superstitious mumbo jumbo. One of the first places I sort of got a taste that this could be something more was in a book called Lotus in the Fire. I've forgotten who the author is. If I can find it out before I put the video up online, I'll put a thingy on the screen. It was about a cancer survivor who claims that, well, his maybe this is where I got the idea of the well-being ceremony from, might have been from this book, but his Zen group did well-being ceremonies for him while he was suffering from cancer, and he claims that in his comatose state he was aware of people chanting sutras for him, not when they were in the room with him. I told this story to a group, and they thought that I was talking about people chanting sutras when they were in the room with him. I'm talking about people in other places when they weren't even there, and he said that he was aware of them chanting sutras for him. And so I thought that was interesting. I didn't think he had any reason to make that up. Sorry, I'm getting bit by mosquitoes down here below on my ankles. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. And an interesting thing happened to me in England just, I guess just a couple of days ago, or a handful of days ago. I'm not sure how many days ago, because everything's all discombobulated right now because I'm jet laggy and stuff. So I have an aunt an aunt, not an ant like the insect, but her name is Sue. Sorry, I'm looking up something on my phone because it's relevant to what I am going to talk to you about. And my Aunt Sue was probably my favorite of all my aunts. My Aunt Betty was another favorite, so they were vying for favorites. But my Aunt Sue was really, and I were really close, especially when I was a kid and a teenager. She gave me her collection of Monkees albums, which was a big deal for me because it made me become a huge fan of the Monkees, which I still am today. The Monkees, the 60s rock and roll band who were also a TV show. And we really kind of bonded. She almost had perfect attendance all throughout high school. She always used to tell me this story. But the day I was born, she took off a day of high school to come and see, her brother's newly born son, and she thus did not have perfect attendance at high school. So that was my fault. But there was some stuff that went on, which is unfortunate. There was a falling out between her and my dad, and my dad told me what happened, and unfortunately, I believed my dad's version of the story, which turns out in retrospect not to have been 100% true. And I had before any of this happened, kind of lost touch with Sue anyway. I'd moved to Japan and I just kind of lost touch with her. And then my dad had this big falling out with her, and since I hadn't really been in that close of communication with her for a little while, a few years, I guess, anyway, I just decided maybe I just don't need to make that big of an effort to contact her. And so over the years, I just kind of drifted away and didn't hear much from my Aunt Sue. So fast forward a few years, and I heard that Sue had developed Alzheimer's and was not doing well and was probably not long for this world. So that was this year, and this came from my cousin Trisha. So I put Aunt Sue on the list of people to chant the well-being ceremony for. So when we chanted the Heart Sutra at Hebden Bridge Zen Center, or no, it's called Hebden. Well, I don't know what it's called. Hebden Bridge Zen Group, or whatever they're called. I apologize to you, Hebden Bridge people in England, for not remembering the name of your group. But we chanted the Heart Sutra, and in my mind, I am dedicating the merit of this to my Aunt Sue. And then at the end of the sutra, Sue's name was intoned by the person whose job it was to say the names of all the people we were dedicating the merit to. Okay, so later on that evening, I checked my emails and I saw that I got a message from my cousin Trisha, and I didn't open it up immediately because I'm in the habit of not opening up emails that aren't urgent when I am on a retreat. But after a little while, I think maybe the next day, I opened Trisha's email to see what it was, and here's what it was. Let me see if I can read it to you in its entirety, because it was very short. It said, my mom, that's my Aunt Sue, who, as you will recall from a couple of minutes ago in the story, has Alzheimer's and is kind of not all there anymore, said my mom kept introducing me, that's Trisha, tonight as her nephew Brad. Interesting, because that would have been pretty much had to have been coincided with the time that we were chanting for her. And I said to Trisha, wow, that's really interesting, and explained to her that we had chanted the Heart Sutra and done this well-being ceremony for her. And after that, I got another response from Trisha that said, wow, that has to be it. She talked about you the whole time we were there. Nothing that made any kind of sense, just like, Brad's going to go and do it. And she hasn't talked about anyone specifically at all in the past many weeks. No one. She said your name in every sentence that she said. It was really interesting to me. Brad, or my nephew Brad. So she apparently said my name over and over the whole time they were together with her. So, this is interesting to me. One of the questions that came up when we were on the retreat was about something that I talked about in Hardcore Zen, and I think I talked about it again in my book, There Is No God, and He Is Always With You, about this interesting experience that I'd had while walking across a bridge in Japan, a so-called Kensho experience, something that in the Soto Zen tradition we don't usually like to talk about, but that I've written about twice, and I've probably talked about it a few times on this YouTube channel, one of these big experiences. And what it was. And what it was it wasn't like you suddenly or I suddenly understood everything in the universe and saw exactly how it was. But one of the things I did see was that things are absolutely not the way that my science teachers and society and everybody in the world pretty much told me how the way the world works. I.e., that I am a meat machine living on a planet, an insignificant, nothing, sort of animal who is disconnected from everybody, who has a life of, if I'm lucky, 70 or 80 years, and poof, I'm gone. That kind of thing. That kind of materialistic outlook was absolutely, completely wrong. But unfortunately, that was not, replaced by another outlook which was completely right. It was just the kind of understanding that that was completely wrong, that there was some other thing going on here, that what I was the entire universe. And that the connections between me and everyone and everything else ran so deep that to say that I am everyone and everything else in the universe is an understatement. So something like me and my Aunt Sue having such an intimate connection that she starts talking about me at the moment that I am doing a well-being ceremony about her, dedicated to her, makes perfect sense to me. So for those of you out there who might think that something like a well-being ceremony is a bunch of mumbo jumbo and doesn't mean anything and doesn't have any significance to anybody, and you just say it just to make yourself feel good, I invite you to think again about that. But I understand that the evidence I am offering to you in this video is weak, and that there could be a million other explanations, including just pure happenstance, for what I am offering you. So I understand that, and if that's the way you want to look at it, fine by me. I'm not going to argue with you. But I just thought I would tell you that story and leave it at that. So, there you go. I am back from Europe, and as I said before, I went to Europe, and while I was in Europe when I did these videos, I got paid for most of the events that I did while I was in Europe, but not all of them. But I didn't come back home with enough money to live on for the rest of the year until I go back to Europe again next fall. So I still depend on your donations, and if you want to donate to me, you can go to the URL you are seeing on your screen below, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is where I get most of my support, and I appreciate your donations. You can find my PayPal and Patreon links there, and that's how I get it. And I appreciate your support. I think I said that already. I am jet lagged like crazy, so I'm probably repeating myself all over the place. And I thank you for your support. I don't know if I said that. I'm saying things I said again and again. But anyway, I appreciate it. Did I say that? Anyway, whatever. We will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Say a well-being ceremony for somebody you love, and maybe they will hear you. See you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bizzles. Hey, Ziggy. Oh, are you sleepy? Are you having jet lag too? Are you having sympathetic jet lag? Because I'm having jet lag. Are you glad to be reunited and it's understood? Alright. We can go back inside while I edit the video, okay? Alright. Talk to you later, Ziggy. Bye.